GM, good morning. Good morning, Brock.
Good morning. How are you?
I am good now. Let's just catch everybody up with why we're late this morning. So there's a
Yeah.
few things happening. Number one, I'm at NFT NYC and I found this perfect spot to sit to do this. And right as I sat down and I went to go live, the DJ started playing right behind me. So that was awesome because
Mm,
everybody needs house music at 11 a.m.,
it
right?
is the best way to start the 11 hour. Yeah.
And then we just spent 5 minutes trying to figure out why Brock's audio wasn't working, only to find out that it was me
It was working. Yeah.
who had muted the StreamYard. So, welcome everybody. Here we are. Let me do an official intro and then we'll get started. So, we are here for the Good News Show Superchain Spotlight. And whether you are joining us for the first time or you're a part of our returning family, you are in for a treat. This is not just another episode, it's the dawn of something new and exciting. So, welcome to Superchain Spotlight. I'm your host, Rachel Wilkins. This is my co host over here or over here, wherever you're watching it, Mr. Brock McBlockchain. And we're thrilled to have
Howdy.
you with us as we embark on this weekly journey every Wednesday. So, Brock, this is a big day because you are officially doxing yourself, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doxxed before, but yeah. Normally, if you're not, normally I wear a luchador mask for all that I do, and just new. We've ventured into the super chain, and I think it's for some reason people get hung up on dox or not dox. So today we'll just be doxed, I guess.
You're doxing your face, and while you were doing that, I'm going to or while you're saying hello to everybody, I'm going to retweet this and make sure it's live in all of the places. So why
Sounds
don't you
great.
do a quick intro and tell folks who you are, bro?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Brock,
Red Cat
Red
from
Cat
Space.
from Cat from Space. You may have heard. Spoiler: everyone's from space, but it just when you can be on the internet, you can name yourself whatever you want. And I think creating a moniker to kind of character or not, it's kind of an extension of myself. But who am I? I've been a developer for 25 plus years. It hurts to go higher than that, but I love building things. I love dreaming and coming up with ideas to help people and problem solve. I've got an NFT project called The Fiches, still going strong 3 years in. And lately I've been taking the deep dive into everything Superchain, and I'm really excited to kind of delve deeper into that. Built a lot of things already, but excited to kind of keep ramping up into doing more and more things. Super happy when I get to problem solve, help people together. And this is a platform, in my opinion, to do all of those things and so much more. So excited to be here.
And I'm really excited that you agreed to do this because when we were chatting about doing a second show about the super chain, like I am by no means a technical person, but I am good at bringing people together. And you and I have been collaborating in the back channels, thanks to Rad Laser Falcon. Shout out to Rad, who connects the dots. She is a connector of all dots and just an awesome human. And she's like, you gotta meet this Brock guy. He's a genius. What he's doing with Fiches is just unheard of. It's amazing. He's over delivering. And ever since then, we've been fast friends and collaborators. And you are my trusted source for all things techie. So appreciate you agreeing to do this. We're going to try and just deliver knowledge in a way that's not too overwhelming for people. And
yeah, I mean, we can go deep if we need to, but I think I don't want someone to say, oh, Superchain, yeah, that's the thing that gives me a headache. I want to see like people see the value, realize how much cool stuff's happening where you don't need to be a tech person. I think 5 years ago to get into like anything blockchain, it was there's a lot to digest. And I think now, especially with things like Farcaster and other apps that are kind of coming out, you can just see the value and the benefit. Especially it's very timely if you're just joining us now, because I think Facebook just got pinned for $100 million to sell everybody's data. Well, that just can't happen on some of the things that we're building right now. And so if you don't like that, your data being sold and you getting nothing, now's the time to jump into an alternative. And the alternatives are fast becoming just as good, if not better.
And let's talk about that for a moment or two. Like, you are somebody who just decided to stop using Twitter. Like a matter of weeks ago, you're like, I'm out. I've got 10,000 followers, but I'm all in on Farcaster. Yeah. We saw the same from Vitalik. He left Twitter this week. Like, when you think about it as a creator,
yeah, it's easy to copy me, but
I was going to say Brock did it first. Yeah. But when you're a creator, like I've been creating content for several years on that app, paying for the ability to be able to create content and not made a single dime. Yeah. And then you have this new potential for a creator creator economy. Like, what is that? What do you think that means for folks?
Yeah. So like the reason why I left Twitter is it stopped being fun, and it stopped being fun like years ago. And so I cashed in quote unquote 10,000 followers for like 400, 500. I don't know what I meant. I don't even care on Farcaster. Because Twitter and a lot of other social networks started becoming like this dance where you're almost like forced into behavior and talking about things that you do. Like you're not being natural. You're kind of forced by this algorithm to like, if I don't perform, I'm gonna be like sheltered away into like some cave, right? And I'll say stuff into the abyss, and there'll be no one there, and it can feel kind of like strange, and it doesn't feel natural. Not saying that like, oh, so I joined another social network and it's way better because. It really, I think what happened with Farcaster and why it was jumping in seemed like it had this spark of creativity. Yeah, there's a lot of like tech and devs and builders kind of talking stuff, but there's channels is the way that they kind of divide things up, and it's kind of like siloing content, similar to like Reddit. So it's kind of like Twitter and Reddit had a baby, but without the toxicity, because people like there is some friction where like the site went down, or like this, they're like you can't do DMs today, and so there is some friction. But I think if you can forego that, the people that are there want to be there, and it's more natural, like it's more real people, and like you can talk to anybody, and it actually probably has a chance of being seen. And so yeah, it's my engagement is probably about the same as it was on Twitter, but the amplification, if I do something cool, people are like, holy crap, this is awesome. Like the community kind of rewards doing real things and being thoughtful and doing other things, and so that felt a lot more natural. And then we can get into some like the tech reasons why, but really with some of the features that don't exist elsewhere, like frames, which I'm sure we'll get into one of these days on the show today or another time. I think that like just quick snippet of what that is. Imagine being able to take a miniature app and put it in as a social media post, and that could be like minting an NFT straight from your post, or it can be playing a game. There's literally a capture the flag game called Yoink that is going 24/7, and it's just a simple thing that says yoink, and you click yoink, it shows who has it, and you can yoink it from them, and now you have the flag, but someone else can come and yoink it after you, and there's a global timer of how long you've held it. And so if you time it just right when people are going to sleep or just waking up, you can kind of stretch, and so there's this leaderboard of how many times people yoinked it and how long they've had it, and it's this never-ending capture the flag. So it's things like that almost like bring play and humor and things into the world of Farcaster. And there's so many other reasons beyond that of like what Farcaster is. I don't want to deep dive if we don't want to go there, but yeah, I turned it in because all of it stopped being fun. And I think right now, if it's not fun, or it's not something that's firing up my passions, I don't want anything to do with it. And so yeah, I trashed my old account with a pointer of like, this is where I'm at if you care. And like at first I think a lot of people are like, okay, whatever, bye. But then some other people are like, wait, let me, like, if he's doing this, like there's gotta be a reason. And I'm happy to say that like probably like 50 to 100 people I know that have kind of made the jump, and I think it's snowballing more and more. And I think they're joining and having a lot of fun. Some people are joining and be like, why do you like this app so much? But I think it's like you have to go into like find the channels that you care about and start to find your people, right? Like, and if you don't, but it's better than just Twitter and going like, you know, I ate food today, like here, or you know what makes me mad? This, and then now everyone piles on. Like it removes all the argument, and especially going into like an election cycle or whatever. Like, holy crap, I just didn't want another round of that. And I'm not saying Farcaster will be isolated from it, but I do think that, again, the people that want to be there, and there's no reward for gaming an algorithm. It's just you find people, and your people see you, and you see them, and who would have thought that would have been a thing? And there's no ads like where they're trying to drive things to. So I don't know.
Well, there could be in the future, but yeah.
Sure, but even then, like I would much rather have like if it funds something, or it's. I think the difference between Twitter is they're extrapolating like all of the value that you pay in. Farcaster is actually like I think you were alluding to, like there's some airdrops and some things, and again, not that's why you should sign up, but like there's some things that's just like I did a thing and someone thought that was cool, and they tipped me like
now I have money.
500 things, which ended up being like $400, and like so, and I think it's because everyone's growing, everyone's winning as a side effect by sharing it. So it's almost like the value that Twitter would have being dispersed amongst the users for creating things that are valuable, or interacting in a way that like someone will ask a question and someone will say like, oh, here's the answer, and they'll say thanks, and then give them a quick tip. Like, why would that not like exist anywhere else? And it's I think it's they're forging a new path that seems familiar, but it's better in a way because we're all sharing in the value instead of having it ripped away from us, and then we are left with, does anyone care about me? Or like, I'm saying this and it's not hitting anybody, and it's because the algorithm's hiding it unless you pay $8. Like, that's just a weird thing.
I think as well, like just for anybody who's like a few things. Number one, there's friction to get on the app. Like it's not just like open a Twitter account and let's go. Like just for anybody who's like maybe not tech savvy, like just be prepared for that, but also know that there are people here like Brock, and there's a lot of other helpful people in the space that will help you on board smoothly and safely. There is still a little bit of friction. And then once you actually get onto Farcaster or Warpcast, which is the application, it is going to feel weird because you're going to be so used to kind of that, like the engagement that you have, the circles that you run in, this certain type of engagement you get on your posts. You're going to feel like you're like in an empty room for a little bit. But I think, as Brock shared, like start small, like find a little circle of people and just start engaging with each other's posts. I will say that Prof Werder said think of it less like a social media app and more like social networking. So think about who you can connect with, who you want to connect with, which groups resonate with topics that you're interested and excited about, and then just start like getting to know people. Like think of it as walking into a conference room like I'm in now and just start up conversations, get to know folks.
Yeah, ignore all those people and start to do a podcast. That's the best way to do everything. Sorry.
Exactly.
I agree with that. I think that it can be scary because you're like, oh, I'm ditching this thing that I've gotten so much like value out of, like having this account. I grew my numbers to whatever, and like my engagement, like to leave all that behind and start to know. But it also kind of is refreshing because you can be a lot more thoughtful in who you follow, and like you can curate. Like it's a tool for you more than it's a performance of like, look at big number followers, I must be valuable. I would rather rock with 1,000 people that actually care about the things that I care about, or find people that are opposing my views in a thoughtful way that maybe like changes my life. Like there's way less attacking and like are you on this side or this side? It's more just like, hey, let's have fun. And there's shenanigans that I'm like making a fictitious supermarket or whatever, and like just people are like just getting into wacky shenanigans of fun, and for me that's a lot more. I would rather fill my day in between, like when I come up for air from working, like to do something funny or fun than not, and like, okay, cool, everyone's mad because of XYZ, right? Like it's just more refreshing for me to start over and be a lot more thoughtful in who I follow and what, be more naturally myself, I think.
I love that. And I just want to give a couple of shout outs because folks who are watching via Unlonely, Brian Morris, big fan of you, big fan of Brian Morris's work. We love Brian. So shout out to Brian. We also got Rad in the comments, holding it down. Rad. We love you, Rad. And shout out to Aaron, who, fun story, I was just walking through this room and I heard Rachel Wilkins. And I'm like, that's Aaron in person. I'm like, we got to go live. So that was very cool. So awesome. Big shout out to everybody who's watching. If you're watching on Twitter or X, boo. No, just kidding.
I mean, use what you want, but Farcaster is a lot more fun, in my opinion.
Come say hello in the chat. We would love to hear from you. We're also live on YouTube, Twitch, and I think that's it. Those are the places that we're at. Give us a follow. And Brock, welcome to the Good News Show family, because we're going to be doing this pretty regularly. We announced Rad's going to be around doing stuff more regularly, and now we've got you. I'm just like onboarding all the good humans, basically.
It sounds like it's a good place to be, so I'm honored.
I'm happy to have you here. So we do have, in 10 minutes, we're going to get to chat. Both of us are going to get to chat with Jonny Mack, who is the founder of an application that is built on top of Farcaster, which is the Hypersub app. So it's a way to build community. So we're going to get to ask him some questions. If anyone in the audience has questions for him, drop them in the comments. But let's talk, Brock, about applications built upon the Superchain, what that actually means, and why people should care.
Yeah, so there's a big diagram that we should probably go splat, but a superchain, like the superchain, is called optimism, which its name alone is, one, for a tech reason, but two, I think it is a refreshing look at how things can be with blockchains. Blockchains again are all kind of like, I'm going to be this killer, or like it got into this like territory where everyone had to try and build up these silos. And I think optimism is a refreshing take of like, no, here's like a platform that we can build our own blockchains, and we might not get it right, but we want to be the best like kind of foundational piece. And then from that, there are new chains. So Base is one, backed by Coinbase. They're doing a lot of like stuff on efficiency. It's just a fun place to build. They're developers, as well as like kind of like they're just staff in general is like super active, super supportive. Like they want everyone to build on base if they can, because they just think it's the best spot to be. But then there's other ones like Zora, which is easily like kind of focusing on NFTs and curation of imagination and things like that. And so if you want to mint an NFT, you can just jump on Zora, connect your wallet, and it's just like fill out a form, upload a video or a photo or whatever, and hit go. And you can do free mints and whatever. And then the cool thing is, if you have your mint page, that can stand alone. You can share that on other platforms. But if you share it on Warpcast, it actually turns into a frame where people can click and mint straight from without even leaving the app. So there's a lot of cool things that are kind of playing together. So I guess Superchain, Optimism is the big layer. Then there's these individual like specialized blockchains. And the cool thing is, because they're all built under the same foundational layer, they can actually interact with one another. And then we're seeing that like to the 10th degree with something like Farcaster. Farcaster is like a protocol. And so that allows everybody to make casts on Farcaster, but then you can make different applications or UIs. So you can actually say, Warpcast is what we've mostly been talking about, where it's like Twitter and Reddit had a baby. And there's Supercast, which is awesome. It's like good alternative, and it's clean. It's got a lot of extra features like tipping and stuff as like buttons. So that's exciting.
What is Supercast? Just pause there for a minute, because that's like kind of like a scheduling software that will push to different places.
It's actually so the cool thing, I guess, again, and I'm trying not to get too much in the weeds here. Farcaster is the protocol, kind of like email, but somebody can open up Gmail if that's your preference, or you can open up Yahoo Mail. And so you're still interacting with email, and they're sending and whatever, and email might be a bad example, but like you can still make casts, but you can make casts from this user application or this application. And the cool thing is, if I have 400 followers and I go to Warpcast, my followers all see my content, but my followers might be on Warpcast, but some of them might be on Supercast as well, and they can still see my content. And if I move to Supercast because I just like the experience better, or it's got scheduling, as you said, which doesn't exist on Warpcast, then I can schedule a post, and then the people on Warpcast can see it. So it's kind of like pick whatever application you want, and it all kind of works with this protocol level, which I think is really cool, because if something goes down or something doesn't work, or somebody like a feature that you really, really care about, the Warpcast folks might not have that as the biggest priority. And so another application can come up and do that. There's a group called the Nouns. They actually did like a huge fundraiser to make their own Farcaster app, similar to Warpcast, but that works more in a style that they prefer, and stuff like that. So like it's really, really cool. And then you see some other things like Dracula is one that is like almost, I don't want to say like a TikTok clone, but it is a video serving that looks similar to TikTok, but I think it has some extra features rolled in. And as people are getting upset with TikTok, like the actual TikTok, Dracula can be a good alternative. And their creator economy, like they put out a huge like bounty to where like, hey, make content here, we'll pay you, whereas other people
equivalent of US $1 million USD.
Right.
They start giving out that grant today. So
I know it's a pretty exciting time. And so like all these things are happening, and Farcaster is the platform, similar to like Optimism is the protocol that is allowing all these things to happen. So if I wanted to make my own application, it's going to be some lift from a development standpoint, but you're seeing a lot of people come out. I really am fighting myself to not make a music one that would help empower artists and let them like release songs and then buy stakes in each other, and like to where artists and musicians can actually get their fair shake. And the more the music is good, the more that it gets amplified and discovering based on this gigantic social graph. I just think someone's going to do it, and if they take too long, it'll probably be me. But there's a lot of exciting things that are happening, and it's the cool thing is like it's on Ethereum, not back. Like Ethereum is kind of like everything is rolled from Ethereum. So like everything that's happening on Optimism uses these roll-ups. So it's kind of like take everything and like here's the proof that all of these things happened, and let's back it up on Ethereum, and then it keeps going down and down further to like the Superchain kind of elements. And so it's got the security almost of Ethereum, but it's way cheaper. So that's, I think, another big exciting point where for my project, if you wanted to mint a fiche and have all the shenanigans that I put out there, the gas right now for Ethereum, because Ethereum had gone up, people were paying like $60 to $100 depending upon the price. And that's so the cost of the thing plus $60 or $100. That's just not realistic for normal folks. Coming to Superchain, it's like fractions of a penny. And so like people can actually use it. And I think that's empowering a lot of this innovation and creativity that we're seeing.
I think we should, in a couple of weeks, maybe when we've gone a little deeper into this, go do an episode entirely on people bringing L1 collections to L2, because there's a lot of chatter around that.
I'm likely headed that way. I wanted to talk, like, I want my community to come along with me though. Like, I don't want to like I do think it's the path though. And so, what does that look like? I think there's a lot of different paths. There's one like leave these as like statues of an ancient time and then move them over here, or maybe this is still has value. And so I think that's the route I'm going with. Like, how can I provide value to all the original holders, but then let them bring their fiche over to base is probably where we're headed. And then what does that unlock, right? Like, it's not moving just to move. It's moving because now that gas is like nothing. I can give everybody like a fraction of gas maybe, and then do whatever. And like, it's so it opens up a lot more play.
Yeah, let's ask that question though for folks in the audience. If you have a large collection, or you have a project that's on L2 that you're still selling and you feel it's prohibitive, are you considering moving to L2? Are you thinking about Superchain? If so, let us know in the comments, and any questions you might have about that. And if you'd be interested in an entire episode dedicated to that, because I think it's important that we have these conversations and see what the community needs are. So we got about 4 more minutes. We got to talk about degen in this last week, Brock.
It's been crazy. If you're not aware, if you're not aware, so Farcaster, somebody made a token called degen. The name, I love it, but also I think it's hard to explain to an outsider. It's like, it's called degen, and like, what does that stand for? Degenerate. So you're asking me to become a degenerate. So, but I think for the culture, like it does make sense. Like, we're the degenerates that are like figuring it all out and facing all this friction, and like, okay, like I'm gonna go into this. And so, yeah, that aside, this became like the de facto tipping currency, not just for like Warpcast, but for other places. But it's not just a token though. It's like, even though it's called degen, and you can kind of be like, well, what is this? They've gone full out in creating an ecosystem and funding things that matter. They've given huge token grants to like Dracula and other apps. So it's actually, I think, fueling a lot of this innovation, where it's like, okay, look, I can do these experiments. I can do this thing that will be for the benefit of everyone, and there's a chance I can get like some funding out of it. And I think there's been chatter of like someone wants to do like a raise for their startup and get paid in degen. And so like. Yeah, and so again, not financial advice. I hope that's just like a disclaimer out there. Like, do whatever you want. I don't care. But I got a token drop, and it was like $300 in like the last round. I was like, sweet, that's more than like I've ever made off like Twitter directly. And it's just through tipping and all that other stuff. But then like the price went up because more people were jumping into it, and you had to buy a chunk to kind of participate. And so that has just created this thing where there's more and more value being dispersed, and now it's worth a stupid amount of money. And so yeah, no, thank you. I should just change both our names should just become that.
I'm just gonna flash that right now.
And so yeah, so it is. Money is cool, but I think more it's again, the tips are going out to people that are creating things, and again, I'm not saying like development, even like someone like, hey, I want to do XYZ, here's what I'm doing, here's like a video of me doing it, and so it's like, that's really cool, tip, and like tips just pile up, and so yeah, it has been crazy.
It doesn't even compute, because like, and we don't have to talk about amounts, but we both got significant airdrops for doing, in my humble opinion, not a lot. And
I think the thing is, like, it's I'm not gaming it. There's a lot of people that are like trying to create content that's almost like triggering to response, or running like, hey, if you do XYZ, I'll tip you this amount. Everyone has to tip this small amount. So there's like that kind of gamification, which is fine. But I just am naturally being myself and naturally doing the things that I want to do that like align to my passions. And people are like, that's really cool here. That's super awesome here. And so yeah, I'm not saying like join the network, you'll make tons of money, because there are so many, like there's only so many airdrops. But I think the coolest thing is that it's going to they built their own L3. So there's Ethereum, the Optimism, and then from degen now there's a degen blockchain underneath. So it's a third layer where just like meme coin chaos is happening. But I think there'll also be magic there, where it's so far down into this like where it's just so cheap to transact. That just magic's happening. So immediately roll up a casino and do meme coin stuff. But I also could see
again
tons of interesting things.
Advice.
Yeah,
I feel like don't add this again.
The name of we should have just called the podcast that. Superchain, not financial advice. But yeah,
So
DGen's been crazy, but it's empowering so much innovation that it's been amazing to
it's
see.
amazing. It's amazing. And we're definitely going to do another deep dive into DGen just kind of as a standalone L3. That's going to come up in a couple of weeks. But we, in the spirit of optimism and just amazing things being built on the Superchain, I want to welcome our special guest, Jonny Mack, joining us, I think, from New York City today. I think Johnny's in town.
Yes.
What's up, Jonny?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure. First time meeting Brock. Brock is my collaborator on the show, so connecting the two of you. So, Jonny, just for those who don't know, would you just give kind of a brief intro and then we'll get into it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the founder of a company called Fabric. We built a product called Hypersub, and it's an NFT, and you can mint time on the NFT. So that time grants you access to airdrops, IRL events, discounts, various perks and benefits. And because it's time bound, the end result is that funds kind of flow in on a recurring basis. So we're framing this and branding it as an on-chain subscription for artists, creators, writers, brands, SaaS companies, etc. So that's the kind of high-level TLDR of what we're doing. I could nerd out about it for many hours, but I'll stop myself right there.
Well, what was really interesting to me is, as somebody who's had subscription models and built communities away from Web3, I hadn't really seen a solution that was, Web3 kind of friendly, that was, decentralized, that allowed for us to still be able to have communication with the audience without doing that KYC. So I was really excited when I heard about it, and shout out to Prof Worder for alerting me to it. But we did just start our subscription this week. We have 2 models. But what I would love for you to do is just talk about perhaps some success stories. I think a lot of our audience that are watching are artists, creators, and they're thinking about, how do I still build that sense of connection with my community? Talk about some of the benefits that perhaps they could engage with.
Yeah. So, like you said, there's been many attempts at this. I mean, I think the Web 2 world kind of realized that recurring revenue was the crown jewel, and that's how you build and scale really big businesses on the internet. And I think that crypto has been largely kind of hamstrung by this, because if you look at, ERC20 tokens and ERC721s, NFTs, which are the kind of the primary economic units of crypto, both of them are discrete in nature. So they represent this kind of one-time value transfer between buyer and seller. And that's great for some use cases, but it's not great for others, especially when you have someone who's creating on a recurring basis. It creates this very asymmetrically unfavorable situation for the creator, wherein they sold something once, but they're offering continual benefit. And so it just doesn't scale. It's not sustainable. And so what's emerged is people doing lots of mints. If you're not like a really big artist with a really, really high floor price, and you're kind of doing stuff more regularly, or if you're doing different kinds of media, if you're not just doing visual art, but you're doing podcasts, or you're making videos, or you're doing events, you're building communities, you're building software, you just don't have great tools. You don't have great economic tools at your disposal for using crypto as a payment rail on a recurring basis. So we built this, and to be totally honest, I mean, we thought it was a failure for like months. It just felt like it went over everybody's head. They didn't really see why it was useful to have the subscription time and the credential on chain. And we've been very early and kind of active to the Farcaster ecosystem. And so as that started to grow, there started to be a big influx. And, one of the very early artists on Farcaster, who actually seeded the idea for this, his name's Oxen. And just kind of out of nowhere, he started getting thousands of mints, in just a very short period of time. I think he ended up making somewhere near $100,000, very quickly. And we were like, oh my God. And then that kind of kicked off a flywheel where we were just sharing what was happening and what we were seeing and why we thought it was happening. And I think that other artists started to notice and do the same thing. So the first use case that emerged was like art subscriptions. And the value proposition and kind of the benefit there is that not everybody has the time and capacity to kind of context switch and like go mint something. Discoverability is usually through Twitter or through Farcaster, and you're in a feed, it's like you're consuming this information. Changing that context, leaving, going to a site, connecting your wallet to that site. If you have to bridge funds, like it's just a lot of steps. And so I think our view is that there's people who want to support the work, but are unwilling to go through the friction of doing it like all the time. And so just make it easy. Just let them support you kind of on a monthly basis, and then you can just airdrop that work to them on a continual basis. And so that worked. It wasn't just this like one-off success. There were other artists, this guy Summit who made the Outcast project, Coop Records, a couple of generative artists, like, publishers. And in every case, we've seen like really high growth. Like they're making, orders of magnitude more money than they are kind of with just like one-off mints that are maybe free or really, really cheap. And so that's sort of what we're leaning into. It's like the benefit is that it's the easiest way to support the people that, you care about and whose work you want to collect on chain. And so that's kind of the like user pitch. And then there's a pitch to, creators and artists, which is it's the universal access pass. That you own the payment rail, it's yours. You own that contract. You have a direct and economic relationship with the people who are subscribing. It's not mediated. I think that a lot of Web2 platforms, I think it's kind of a psyop when they say, oh, they're your subscribers. Like, no, they're not. It's the platform subscribers, because you're the one taking the money and you're the one controlling the data. So that the creator actually, you tell creators that they have followers and subscribers, but it's really the platform that does.
Mm-hmm.
In our case, that's like literally not true. And we demonstrate that, for example, when you export the list of addresses on the contract that you own, you import that in other tools, and you can have all kinds of other events, whether it's building a token gated site or members only blog posts, group chats on various platforms, live streams. I mean, the list goes on. We're making a big bet on the kind of composability of apps in the ecosystem. So those are the kind of two value propositions we've been making to these two different, cohorts of users.
So before I throw it to Brock, I just want to say that a couple of shout outs here. Brian Morris says, digging the Hypersub model. Had the pleasure of having a call with Jonny. He's a real one. So already we've got artists excited about this, which is makes me very happy. Brock, any comments or questions for Jonny?
Yeah, I think just so that's great to date. Looking forward, I think, where do you see this continuing? Because I could, like, my brain is going off, like I could see like where there's a access pass where it's like a collective, where it's like split between multiple artists and they're all producing at different like the user gets the benefit of getting multiple subscriptions to one kind of bucket, and then the collective gets an income based on like I guess content creation not always happens on a month. Like sometimes there's not a deliverable in a month because they want to make something bigger. So having like groups where there's that ebb and flow kind of like works together, I can see that being an awesome thing. And then correct me if I'm wrong, probably am. It seems like you're controlling like that piece, but then like the what does the execution look like, or what does that hub look like is up on the artist. Is there tooling in your path to like help enable like non-technical, or where you? This is a really wide question, so sorry. I'm excited by it, and I could just see it going a lot of different ways. I've got a lot of artist friends, and so I would like to be a champion for you too.
Oh, I really appreciate that, and I can speak to all those things. So let's see. You asked about kind of creation experience. You asked about what's next, and then there was a third thing that you mentioned.
My ADHD is running wild this morning, so feel free to start with just two, and I'll chime back in.
Okay, I'm running on like 4 hours of sleep, so I'm right there with you.
Same, but that's the norm, so no worries.
Yeah. So as far as what's next, like the big thing for us is like I want to support credit cards, and I want to have passkey wallets. And to me, the combination of those two things kind of solve the crypto onboarding problem. So if you think of that as there's two things that users need. They need wallets, and then they need either funds or assets inside of those wallets in order to kind of be a in order to do stuff on chain. And so I think that we're seeing Web 2 account creation and Web 3 account creation converging on passkeys. Like I just created a new Google account the other day, and it asked me to set up a passkey. And so there's a lot of like embedded wallet services that are doing the same thing. So I think that's going to be huge for getting people a wallet in this very, very simple way. And then I think for us, taking credit card payments and getting them digital assets into those wallets that we create for them, using the credit card and then billing that card on a monthly recurring basis. To me, that means we'll start to be able to kind of at least plan for escape velocity from crypto. I think that if you're a founder building in crypto, it's really important to first build something that your peer group sees value in. And then from there to kind of like go out to the next ring, and that might be creators, artists, brands, etc., who maybe aren't like totally crypto hostile and maybe more crypto curious, having more of an open mind and open to kind of like new unit economics, better fan experiences, and so on. So that's kind of like, I would like to do that, but I think in order for us to do that, we really do need, there's just feature work that we need to do. So that's kind of the next immediate step. Remember the second thing you asked about, which was the kind of organizing unit. Like right now, it's all individual creators. There's Coop Records. So Cooper Turley has a Coop Records Hypersub. They're doing daily drops of different artists. The first one we saw do this was Artcaster. There's a guy on Farcaster, and he curates an airdrop, a monthly airdrop with a different artist every month. And I'm actually super excited about this. I was talking to a writer last night, and he's like, yeah, I want to do like a publishing collective where it's not just me. It's like a lot of writers. And I think this is a phenomenal idea. I'm really excited to see more of this. And I actually think that that's going to be required in order to scale, because having, like I'm a power user. I have like 60 subscriptions on Hypersub, but no, that's not, I think even 10 is a lot. I mean, now that being said, there are quite a few people on Hypersub who are just really into it and they're subscribing to a lot of people, but I just don't think that's going to scale. And so I think we need a way to provide exposure to lots of different kinds of work, but with like one entry point. And I think that's where curatorial kind of like publishing mindset comes in. And what this is the awesome thing about crypto is that it's programmable value. So you can specify a third-party revenue recipient for your Hypersub contract, and that can be a splits contract wherein you have all of the artists, all the contributors for that given month are on there. The revenue just hits that splits contract, and then it gets divvied up. It's all observable, public, on chain. It happens immediately. You don't have to wait for payouts. It's like net zero. Like it's very, very creator favorable economics. So I'm excited to see more of that. I think, as with most things, you have to kind of demonstrate it. We can tell this charismatic story, and at the end of the day, it's like, it's super abstract. And so I think like working with people to actually do this and ship it and then tell the story and say, look, here, it's happening now. You can go and see. That's sort of the next step there. And then you asked about a third thing, and now I'm forgetting what that was.
It was I think like right now it's you're on your own, kid, for what it looks like after, which I think is empowering, but I think it's also sometimes where, like are there tools of like here's like multiple for managing your community. Here's how that would just, I think, be a cool thing also to build towards. Yeah.
So we have this sort of design principle that is emerging, which is one experience, many contracts. And what I mean by that is, if you look at what we've built, right, it's just a payment rail. It's just like a highly stylized product. It's like payment rail that sort of has this product built around it. And then when someone says, well, where do I do the publishing? We're like, go here, go there. And they're like, what if I want to do events? We're like, go over to this other site, and it's all interoperable because the data is on chain. And that's a okay answer for now, but it's not a great UX. People do want an integrated user experience, actually. And so the nerd sort of mind, is excited by interoperability and composability, but the end user does not want to have to do all that. And so where we're kind of going is finding other companies that are doing really cool things with smart contracts, whether that's publishing podcasts, whether that's creating AI and visual art, whether that's creating physical product redemptions, whatever, events and so on, and say like, look, well, we're both aligned in the sense that we want like transaction volume and you want transaction volume, but I don't want to have to build everything ourselves. We're not going to be able to do it. We won't be able to keep up with the demands of the market. Plus, I don't want to gatekeep innovation and creativity. I mean, like, creative people are always going to move faster than a platform. And the worst thing, and to me, this is like one of the biggest offenses of Web 2, is that you can now, creators can only innovate as fast as the Web 2 platforms build tools for them to do so. And that just seems fundamentally broken. So my thinking is, let's integrate other companies' contracts and then build a creation experience inside of Hypersub. So one experience, we're giving the end user what they want. They don't have to leave, but transaction volume is being driven in multiple directions, and then that's reciprocated. So, if another company is like, yeah, we do visual art and AI. Actually, this is my friend Soren at Titles. They have this really cool product. It's like, well, why don't you provide your users the option to subscribe to artists, and why don't you use our protocol to do that? And so I think, like, I'm talking to a lot of founders and finding that this idea has traction. And so I think we're going to try to run with that to where, and this orients us in a very cooperative way, where we can build something better together than what we can do individually. It's the kind of like rising tide lifts all boats thing, as opposed to trying to be one giant monolithic platform that tries to own everything and thus can't move as fast and so on. Like, I just don't think that's the winning strategy in crypto. That's not how you're going to differentiate from a Web 2 company. And so the nice thing is that the integrations, as long as you're building a smart contract, as long as you're using fairly standardized stuff and it's all on chain, the integrations are all pretty straightforward. We don't need to have these long, we don't get killed in like the development of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
In the spirit of that, oh, sorry, go ahead, bro.
I was just saying, I +1 to all those things. I think it's more about building inputs and outputs, like those boundaries of like, as long as you give me this in and I give you this out, that you know what to expect, then everything's Legos, right? Or generic blocks that connect together. And I think that is the way. But I do think like there's value in putting a wrapper around, like, it's almost like how generic blocks come with an instruction manual of like, you can build this. Some people need that, like, kind of like, the silhouette of what it could be, but I want this wing attached. And so I think that it's cool that you're already kind of exploring that of like, and I also super embrace the whole, like, let's all just win together and not try and make these like everything apps. Let's let you build everything you want from the combination of all of our super strengths and our powers kind of thing. So really love that. I have another question, but I don't, Rachel, I want to just.
I'm going to throw it back to you in a second. The only thing I think is really important, and just, I love that we're doing these sessions and kind of learning out loud with you as we go, with our special guests, like, because already I'm thinking about the Good News Show and like how we can potentially bring other content creators into the loop and be able to disperse funds and revenue and share with them. But the thing that was really exciting to me and really was the motivating reason for us to jump in with Hypersub was this idea that we could share revenue with our audience, because we've been building for 2 years and our community are just such a huge part of why we're successful. So we want to be able to pay that back. So talk to us a little bit about that revenue pool share.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think this is this is so central to what crypto is, in my opinion, which is shared upside. It's easy to program funds in all kinds of interesting ways. And so from our perspective, it's like, why wouldn't you, if you have this very simple means by which to share a portion of your upside with the people who helped you get it, then why wouldn't you? And so this is sort of built into the protocol, which we call the subscription token protocol. That's the smart contract that Hypersub is built on top of. So we built both of these things. And we initially sort of had this idea, what if you added a temporal dimension to NFTs? What if you could mint time on an NFT? We're really excited about that. Okay, great. And right before we're about to release that, we're like, no, we can't forget why we're building, which is we want to, help people share upside. And So we said, okay, wouldn't it be cool if the creator of the NFT could allocate a percentage of their revenue to go into an on-chain pool? And so let's say they allocate 10%. Then for every $100 that goes into the NFT, at mint time, 10% of that will go into this on-chain pool. So they'll get $10. And then the question then becomes, well, what happens with the $10? And the way that we designed it is that the earlier you subscribe and the longer period of time you subscribe for, the greater your share of that 10% will be. So it's like a slice of a slice. And so this is a way to kind of align incentives. And I think like, as we think about credit cards, it's going to present this interesting kind of fork in the road, which is if you just want to just take my credit card, bill me on a monthly basis, cool, we'll do that. No problem. But you're kind of giving up exposure to upside for the creator. If you do want to participate in that, then you kind of have to onboard into crypto. And that's a good reason for onboarding into crypto, because that's kind of the only way you can do it. We can't really do this with Visa or Stripe or whatever. So that's the basic idea. It's pretty simple. And it functions as a discount most of the time, and we haven't seen this yet. I'm like, I can't wait for the day, but I think we'll get there. But, if you're early and you subscribe for a really long period of time, our view is that you're taking a relatively big risk on the creator. And so the reward should be proportional. So you can imagine a situation where someone says, I really like this person. I really support them. I'm going to subscribe for, I'm going to mint a year's worth of time or 2 years worth of time. And they're correct. That person grows and the subscription grows and the revenue grows, everything just grows. It's like, well, the reward pool on day one will function as a small discount, and then, a bigger discount and a bigger discount and a bigger discount until it's going to like cross the threshold of being like a discount into actually being like upside. And that'll just continue. And so it's dependent on the growth though. So it really aligns incentives between the creator and the audience. Like they both want the same thing and they're both going to win when that thing happens.
That's super awesome. I could see, like, when I first was like looking at the site and I was like, I could see where that was going. And of course, like, things have to fall how they are, where somebody gets super popular and lots of subs. But you could also help that too. Is kind of, so
that's the idea. And we see that with like people kind of connecting the dots, like, oh, I'm actually going to share this. I'm going to give this to my friends. And some people are like, oh, that feels too speculative, and I don't like that. And we're like, great, then don't enable it.
Right.
Don't do it. Yep. You don't have to. It's the way I think of it is like almost like a distribution budget for the creator. Some creators don't care about this. They're like, nope, I have a huge audience. They're going to subscribe no matter what. Not interested. Others are like, I'm going to give away 40% of what I'm doing because I really want this to be community driven and I need the community to help me grow this. And so I think having that tool available, it's like a really powerful lever that if you need it, you have it.
Can artists adjust it dynamically over time?
Not in the V1.
Okay. Because I could see, I could see where it's almost like so say I start off at 10%, but I make a promise of I'm going to work my tail off. And if we get this milestone, I'm cranking it up to 20%. And if we hit this milestone, I'm cranking it up to 30 and continuing to where it's like, I'm only going to take 80% because we've reached this milestone. But from that, the 20% is sustainable for myself. And so everyone that believed and helped me get there is super winning. And I'm still able to keep content. And so there's this like symbiotic. And then if the numbers start to go down, like, hey, look, like, very public, like this number drops, I gotta dial it back a little bit. So there's some interesting things there, I think. Again, V1, sure, that's cool. Another thought I had is taking that same slice idea and applying it to that collective, where the more that content that the collective puts out, if I put out 10 pieces, I get 10 slices of that month. So therefore my slice of the collective share is more. That would be interesting as well. I'm not sure if we're there yet, but that would be really cool. Yep.
That's definitely kind of in our orbit. I hadn't considered the idea of like a scalable reward pool, but as you were describing it, it reminds me a lot of startup equity with dilution and with down rounds. So there is this mechanism by which sort of traditional companies do have for saying, okay, well, we're going to kind of change like everyone's pie is going to get smaller, but the sum total of the pie is going to get a lot bigger. So in absolute terms, we're all actually better off, but you kind of do need this this malleability of the pool. So that's a great idea, actually. I'm going to talk to my co-founder about that when we get off this call.
Amazing.
I am a fire hose of ideas, so I'm sorry.
Yes, he is. He's brilliant.
I'm biting my tongue to not
Yes.
share more,
but let me just say,
I'm super excited. So.
One thing I think is really important is, because there are a lot of creators that watch the show, like, what is some really great and exciting use cases that you've seen people do in terms of what they're delivering?
The most exciting thing to me are like cross collaborations, like, and the reason why I'm excited about it is because it's like you can't really do this in like a Web 2 context. And so what I mean is that you have, say, visual artist A and like writer B, and this is like happening more and more. And it's like, and so what happens is the artist says, well, why don't I make a limited edition piece for, your next publication, and we'll airdrop it to our respective audiences. So your audience will get my art and my audience will get your publication, and it'll be kind of co-branded in this way. And they don't need anything from us to do that. Like, because again, all the subscription data and the membership credentials are public. So they can just go and see who are these subscribers, how long have they been subscribed for, how much money have they put into the system, and here we're going to reward them. And the reason why that's valuable is what every creator wants is to grow their audience. That's what everybody wants. They want more distribution, more of everything. And so what are your options? It's like, well, you can, advertising is an avenue, kind of surfing the algorithms of social media platforms is an avenue, but collabs are a really good option as well. But who do you collab with and what do you do? And where is the audience overlap and where is not the audience overlap? And the platforms keep that data very, very like under lock and key. Can you imagine if you said, well, hey, I'm doing something kind of cool, there's somebody else who's doing something similar. It's reasonable to expect that our respective audiences would like each other's work. Hey, platform, can you just tell me, can you give me a list of those subscribers, how much money they've spent, how long they've subscribed, et cetera, et cetera. That's not going to happen. So what we're seeing is people just spontaneously, like organically saying, hey, let's like work together, let's do a thing. And then the thing happens, and it's like beneficial to them, and it's also beneficial to those respective audiences themselves because it imbues the subscription with more value. So those kinds of like, we've also been talking to brands like, hey, look, there's this really cool membership club of like tastemakers and influencers. Like, here's what we can see from what they're doing on chain. Do you want to give them like a 15% discount on a ticket somewhere, or on a physical product, or on an event, that sort of thing? Like, it's like the combinatorial things you can do between these different subscriber bases is like the most exciting to me. But
I could see that data also being really valuable for advertisers. The fact that you can see kind of LTV of subscribers and all of that stuff for potential brand partners as well.
Yep. Churn, targeting, there's all kinds of cool stuff you could do. That being said, that I still every day I get notifications. I love that my wallet has kind of turned into like it's like my digital doorstep, and every day there's like new stuff on it, So it's like you come home, there's like a little stack of like Amazon boxes. It's like I have like a stack of like cool NFTs and media and stuff that I'm like, oh, nice. I didn't even have to go mint this. It's all just here.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's super. It started off as just money, and then the things that like where creative, like a lot of the things I'm doing now are to try and empower like non-coders to try and be able to, you bring the creativity, I'll bring something that like lets you, and so yeah, it's super awesome to see your wallet become more than just money and stories and pieces of things that are just interesting. So
it's becoming like a network of content and relationships and creators. It's like, that's cool to see emerge, and I think there more needs, like we want to do more around how to show that and how to like experience that,
Yeah. That's the cool part, is that the UI can be anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think just from on a personal note, like I signed up thinking this was going to be me delivering, the same assets that I've been delivering in Web 2 to now thinking, all right, I want to bring in my co-collaborators and I want them to be creating content and distributing through this model. And how do we make this more of a community effort? So I know we got to let you go, Jonny, because it is right at the hour. But really appreciate you coming through. Can you just give a call to action about how folks can learn more?
Hypersub.xyz. That's our stuff's there. It's a work in progress. We ship every week. If it's a big feature, it's every 2 weeks. I'm nonlinear.eth on Farcaster, Warpcast. If you have feedback, if you want help onboarding, if you have questions, feel free to mention me or DM me. And tell your friends. We're trying to onboard as many people as we possibly can as fast as possible.
Amazing.
Sounds good.
All right. Jonny, thank you so much. And we'll chat with you soon.
Okay. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right.
That was awesome.
That was great. I love that you're like fire hose ideas. Let's go.
It's just, I think that is the magic that is happening right now on a lot of Superchains, is that I know it's supposed to be like an interview podcast, but also just like getting geeked out about the possibilities of, and the cool thing is they're making it easy where you don't need the technology side. Like it's just empowering you to just, you bring the content and what you're best at and what you're passionate about and your community. And this is a system that'll let you to constantly get value monthly, or however long you kind of jump in. I really also like the idea of if you're early, like we're all early, but the earlier you are on somebody, the compounded kind of benefits that you could get. That's kind of cool, and not just like monetary, but like I'm getting all the content at the same price, but it's coming like more and more discounted. I think that's interesting. So
amazing. So that, believe it or not, brings us to the end of our episode 2 and your first episode. Had a good time?
I did. I have a great time. Thanks.
Ready to do it again next week?
So, yeah, let's make it a thing. I hope you enjoy the conference. Should be super fun too.
I have to go find my stage because I'm speaking in 10 minutes. But
flex.
Big thank you, flex. Look at this though. Good News Show has its very first speaker.
That is awesome.
So that's very fun.
Keep those as a stack. That's a story to tell for each one.
Yes. So folks, please do subscribe wherever you're watching this. If you're watching it on Lonely, welcome. We're still figuring that out. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're watching it on X, ooh, no, just kidding. Just give it a retweet or re-X or whatever we're calling that now. And come join us on the Monday Timepieces show. We have a Good News show on X every Monday, and we'll be back with this show next Wednesday. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rob.
See you.
Bye.